Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who is helping me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Dr. Kathryn Vecchio, who discusses with us some of her Sicilian family traditions, but more so some of the aspects of her life where she was touched by addiction, adoption, and complex trauma. As an athlete, she overcame some extraordinary obstacles and applied those life lessons to programs. But Marty, she talked to us about not being able to bear children, and that was a pretty significant aspect of her life and how she was able to deal with that and the fact that this is what her life is going to be, and she was able to fulfill herself through adoption. What are some takeaways our listeners can gain through Dr. Vecchio?
You talked about her non-ability to bear children, and she talked about her adoption, and when she finally decided that was the way to go, her enthusiasm about adoption and the relationship she has with her children and how fulfilling that is. We can speak from personal experience because our granddaughter's adopted. Even though they're not biological, they're just almost like biological because they pick up your personality and they pick up your traits, and they definitely are yours. They are a gift from God.
And it's a great life testimony of how to adapt to a situation that is different from the way you thought life may be. Let's listen and learn together. Dr. Kathryn Vecchio, it is great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very intrigued, very interested in just a brief overview of your background. By your description, you've been through addiction, adoption, various traumas, and our listeners are going to be very interested in knowing just kind of a top level, just to know, yep, well, you've identified what maybe I am going through, but we're really interested in how you go from today and forward to overcome. Dr. Vecchio, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks.
Dr. Vecchio, can you give our listeners just kind of a top-level summary of where you've been? And our emphasis, of course, as always, is moving forward from the past, today, and forward.
Well, thank you. I guess the main piece for me in that with the big struggles for me, and my big struggle was infertility. You know, I've seen a thing or two in my life. You know, we all have that thing that is the thing that maybe brings us to our knees it's our moment of reckoning, could be or not, where we either go to our knees or go to a bottle or more stuff than junk to plug the hole, so to speak. And mine was infertility, and thankfully it broke me so hard that I had only one way to go, which was up. I mean, I tried real hard how to fix that on my own will and tenacity as an athlete. I like push through, figure it out as an academic person, read more, study more, hard, all that, right? No, that doesn't work that way. Infertility just doesn't. And it brought me to my knees. And then in the end, for me, I'll call God Great Spirit out of respect for anyone who, whatever you believe, whether it's energy, God, Buddha, Jesus, for me, it was the complete and total surrender of the dream of what I thought was the only point of what I thought I could do with my life and the suffering that I'd had in my life, which was I wanted to be a mother, and I thought that was the purpose. And then Great Spirit brought my beautiful children to me through adoption. And it never, ever even occurred to me that, or my family as an Italian, large Italian family where everyone has lots of children. And it was just, my family had never been touched by adoption. And so it was this enormously beautiful miracle that came from that. But in the course of things, I had some medical issues that wrapped around the infertility stuff, had severe migraines, was treated 25 years ago. The treatment for migraines were pain medicine, opioid pain medicine. What they didn't know then was that opioid pain medicines create rebound headaches. So the more they gave, the more headaches were created, and they just didn't know. But for some people like myself, it was migraine headaches created so much dehydration through constant the headaches created so much vomiting and to the point where I would have to get IV fluids and actually had to get a port put in for the IVs because I had so many. It was like a port is a permanent where they have access to do the IVs, and then that got infected and I got sepsis, and it just all of these issues rolled and kept getting more and more pain medicine. I never ever went outside of what the doctors prescribed, and I don't know if I would call it as an addiction, but certainly there was a dependency physically. And I was at this point in my life where the doctors are saying, well, you have a physical, tangible dehydration through this. We can see it, because I kept saying, maybe this is in my head. It's in my head, the pain, but maybe I can outthink this. And it was a really difficult thing because I didn't want to not be well, but I couldn't get out of it because when you're on that much medication, it's really hard to be well. And my doctors are saying, you need to be on this much medication. Look at you. You're not well. And one day my daughter came and looked up at me and she said, I want my mom back, because I wasn't me. And I knew I wasn't me. And I went to my doctors and I said, that's it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I'm in agony the rest of my life. I'm not taking this medication anymore. And it was a long road to get off of that medication. I'll tell you, it was a long road, because finding a place where you can't, finding a place that was a pain management program that would deal with helping someone safely titrate off the medicine was very, very difficult. But I did, and gratefully, for me, God's mercy and love and grace came through that, and I learned a lot. And on the other side of that, decided that I wanted to work with people and help them in the way that I'm doing now. And that's a big part of the reach of the program, and working with people in recovery and people who are dealing with chronic pain. And that community, the chronic pain community and the addiction community and dependency community, in my opinion, is underserved and somewhat forgotten, because it's very difficult, because for me, I was able to find alternative Eastern medicine ways to treat my headaches that worked, very aggressive Eastern medicine techniques. But there are people who have chronic pain that have to take pain medicines, and it's just there's a lot of finesse to it, so that they don't go over the line into addiction and dependency, but treat the pain. And that population is a fascinating community for me to try to reach out to and support through my work.
I want to explain how I am processing what you're saying. And to a degree, I want to apologize to our female listeners who may be thinking, as they listen to what I'm about to say, only a man can think that way. But here's what I'm processing, Dr. Vecchio. Your identity was in part, maybe in large part, earlier in your life, based around being able to bear children. Your life was, I want to, and for various reasons, medically, and maybe some other reasons, you were not able to. So I am curious, did you at one point feel almost a lesser woman because of that?
I appreciate the bravery as a man to ask that. I thank you for that. And yes, the answer, yes, absolutely. And I still do. People say my children are, I can't even think of it this way, but close to 30. And we say it, I call them my little goats. My little goats and we don't say they're adopted, because that's not their flag. I mean, we all choose what's our flag, right? Am I adopted? No, they came to me through adoption. And that was just, and is my flag that I'm an adoptive mom? No, I'm a mom. But people say lots of things that can be hurtful, and still now do. And even men say things to me that suggest that I'm a lesser woman, and it doesn't bother me. And actually, from the moment that they put Jacob in my arms, I remember thinking, I don't know what it's like to bear a child, but I know what this profound miracle is. And then when his biological sister was born, and we went to pick Birdie up, and I wondered, would Jakey know that's his sister, or would he think it's just another little child to play with? And he knew it was Birdie. He knew it was Birdie. You know, people say things that goes like this. But, you know, and when Jakey was born, I wore him in a papoose on my stomach for 9 months, and I kept rubbing his head. I kept saying, I'm going to hold you on my tummy for 9 months and we'll make up for it. My kids and I have been through some high water since they were born. We've been through a thing or two too. And I'll tell you, we've had the best life together. I just call us the us. And it's just nothing like it. I mean, the journey to get to the us and now the us, there's just nothing like it. I wouldn't have traded one step of the painful journey to them and all the painful comments since, and the questions I have about my identity as a woman. I figure, any man that would make particular comments to me, or I don't know about this swiping to the left or the right, but I figure some people just belong not in the core, in the middle of the circle, right? And they belong in the vortex.
Dr. Vecchio, I appreciate your heart. Marty and I both appreciate your heart for several reasons. Our granddaughter is, okay, let's say legally adopted, but she is as close to being biological as you can possibly be. I frequently refer to our daughter and son-in-law as you deserve what you got. And you have to understand, particularly, I guess it's my relationship with our granddaughter, that she has commented, "Mama, you'd be happier single." And you just have to know the relationship that we have with her. She's as close as being biological as you can possibly be. Dr. Vecchio, thank you for your heart. And yes, I will just tell our listeners, Marty and I are faith-based, and I mean everything about us is biblically based, and God ordained everything about our life. We're moving forward. And I will tell you just very briefly, and I know Marty wants to join in. I can say that, men, yes, you can be a sperm producer, and yes, in some ways you can be a father, but it takes a very special person to be a dad. And moms, it takes a very special person to be a mom. And some of the other things that go along with that are lesser important, but God knows our heart. And when our heart reaches out to children and other people, God knows that's who we are, and that we call it connected relationships. That's what it's all about.
I wanted to say I appreciate your telling us about your journey and not being able to get pregnant. Our daughter went through the same thing, and she finally had to get on her knees also and realize that God is in control. And it is a journey, and it is a hurtful journey. But when we see Angelina, and I see Angelina and our daughter and their relationship and how much she just does for her. Angelina is a gift. Just all children are a gift. And Angelina is a special gift to us.
Well, my big joke with my kids, and it's actually probably not so much a joke, as I say, my greatest gift to you is that I didn't give you the crazy Vecchio DNA. Okay. And then we talked some about, people have all these crazy ideas about adoption from like I call it the voyeuristic talk shows, Geraldo and stuff. Oh, we'll get the whole families together. And my children are so hilarious. They're like, hey, as if we don't have enough issues in this family. We got to figure out this family, but then we got to add more because we're going to search out more families. Forget about it. The Italian family, forget about it. Let's figure out this one first. I mean, like, if you just keeping it real, right? And my children are just, they are the love of the life of my family. They have brought nothing but joy. My extended family, we didn't know what it was going to be like. A bunch of Italians, they were kind of like, adoption, it's not really culturally was off a bit from what and I was like a freight train. I mean, I went to the adoption lawyer and I said, look, I want to be a fat Italian mother with 5 kids on my lap, and I better not just end up with just the fat part, okay? I better end up with the kid. and and so anyways, thankfully I got the 2 of them. And now with the work that I do, I all the time I say, I didn't get 5, I got 500. And like, God, look how good God is. Like, I mean, really, and I mean that. These kids that I work with, I can't even tell you, it blows my mind that I am back in Columbus, which is where right now the hub of the practice is, but that's where my children were born, here in Columbus 30 years ago. And now I'm working with other kids, these little mini humans, and it just, I love them so much. It just, my heart God's goodness absolutely stuns me every single day. And he doesn't stop working on our hearts if we just stay in the game, just staying in that game. And God, it hurts, but I feel like that is telling me that I'm in the game and God's still working on my heart and carving my soul out. And that's what this is about. This isn't about having a fun ride. I mean, I have fun. I love life a lot, but that's not what this, for me anyways, it's not the point of this part of the journey.
As you think back on the earlier days of what used to be, I think it seems, reckoned yourself with, you became settled with the fact that, nope, you're not going to be able to bear children, but adoption is the way to go. And then I'm kind of envisioning a second phase of your life, that adoption. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to reckon with that. That may not be a term you would use, but I gotta settle with that. And then I'm wondering, in hindsight, did it take you longer to accept adoption as the way of life, but your children, your adopted children, who are as close as biological, did they just immediately accept it, no problem, or was there a period of adjustment? I'm rambling here just a little bit with a very, very open question, but for our listeners who may be right at the decision point, are going to learn a lot from what you went through.
Well, their father, my ex-husband, we ended up divorcing, unfortunately. When we were being an athlete, and we're both athletes and academics, and he was at the point of open to adoption or not having children, and he's a believer, or not having children far earlier than I was. And lots of people were saying to me, well, you have this career and you have all this stuff. And it was just like, no, I heard God's call to be a mother. And from the time I was little, that was the call. And again, it was just constantly, well, just be satisfied with this career. And I kept going to school through all the years of trying, because I felt that was prudent, and I loved my work. But my husband was ready, and I remember him saying something to me. He said, Kat, think of all the people we know who have chosen to bring children into their lives through adoption. Wouldn't you want to be in that club of people? Now, isn't that our crew? Isn't that our tribe? And I went, right on. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, I fit, I belong. Because before that, I thought, I don't belong. Like, I'm not a mom. I want to be a mom, and then I went, oh yeah, because I knew all these people who had brought their, I'm sorry, sorry about that, brought their came through brought their children in through adoption. So he said that to me, and then it made sense to me. And then it was like this, we never really looked back, like that this was secondary to biological. It was like there was no difference. And so when our children were born, we didn't have lots of books about adoption. We had a few. It wasn't the predominant dialogue, but it wasn't a secret. And some of our friends, and some of my closest friends, are adoptive parents. What I find is that it seems to me a lot of my friends seem to be either much more quiet about the adoption piece of the story, or much more assertive about it, like, let's go find your birth family, let's go hunt, let's and I'm not going to say push it, but it's much more a predominant dialogue. With me and my children and my husband, my ex-husband, it's like it was an event that occurred when they were born, and it's a part of the story, and that's about it. When my kids talk to me, their mannerisms, their sense of humor, their sensibility, I see my ex-husband in them all the time. My son, I don't think that he could be any more like, organically like, my ex-husband than it's absolutely stunning. And my son, he actually, I don't, there's probably not enough money or incentive that he would get in a car going cross country with Bertie and I, because he says we're so much alike that he would not allow himself to be trapped in a car with us together for that amount. Probably not even in an elevator going up to the 23rd floor to see my mother, because we're so much alike. And it stuns me. And yet physically, like, my daughter is hilarious because I have this really curly hair, really dark skin. She's very, very straight hair. Her skin is porcelain. She's gorgeous. She's a most beautiful woman. And yet our personalities are so much alike. Our mannerisms, our humor, so much alike. You wouldn't know. And to me, that's God. That's what God is to me. It's the Spirit of God. And that is what saved my life. That's what saved my life when I was long ago, decades ago. That's the true living God in my life. That raises me up every day currently. So yeah, when people talk about, in my opinion, talk about the miracle of adoption, that's what I think of it, because I think biology kind of seems like it makes sense. You see yourself in a child, like, okay, that child looks like me, or that's a piece of me. So the loving would seem organic, right? When then a child comes you through adoption and it's instantaneous, just like it would be biologically. Well, that's God. That's God.
Dr. Vecchio, I'm envisioning you are on a transformational journey. God has transformed you from some of the, I'm going to use the term, heartache of the past. You wanted to bear children and you were not able to do that. You accepted that part of your transformation. And then the adoption occurred, and that was a bit of, let's just call it, adapting to each other. maybe you had to go through some form of adapting to others' thoughts of you adopting. And I'm envisioning those are some of the transformational parts of your life that maybe through some number of years, it took you a while to work through, accept, adapt. Those are terms I'm thinking of. Am I close to being right? And I want to go further by saying if I am close to being right, and no attempt to be a psychologist or soothsayer or anything of that nature, but if I'm reading into your life correctly, I am absolutely certain there are a lot of listeners who are saying, I'd like to hear more about Dr. Vecchio's life.
Well, that's humbling for sure. I certainly feel like it hasn't been been easy, that's for sure. And Ken, my ex-husband, he walked through that journey with me, and it was a hard road. I mean, he would say that I took infertility on the chin pretty hard. And then, then I guess you have that big hit, and God transforms you. And then hopefully, and it was true in my case, hopefully God keeps allowing things to come into your life that breaks you so that God can put you back together again. And I feel like, and God allowing that to happen, God shows me, honors me with the opportunity to keep growing in my faith. And then it's not easy, but I would rather have had the path that I've been on than looking back over my life and say, that I hadn't had all of these kind of broken lines of cracks and places where God had to put me back together, and I'm stronger spiritually for it, and that I had to dig so much deeper to be I guess it's a visual. As an artist, I just see it like this, reaching my hand out constantly, grabbing for God in these circumstances that have been so hard in many places in my life, through different different things that have come up. I mean, like my mom is passing, very difficult passing with Alzheimer's, and different things that have visited upon my family over the years, that my children and I, have had to lean on God on an hourly basis, and that's good.
Dr. Vecchio, I'm processing what you're saying, and I'm just believing that what a lot of listeners who are saying. I'm hearing you say, Dr. Vecchio, there was a point in my Dr. Vecchio's life where I felt as if my life was in a shambled bunch of pieces. I needed help to keep the pieces together, to mold the cracks and put me together. My life is that way right now. I want to ask you, Dr. Vecchio, and I acknowledge this is a bit of an unfair question while we are recording. Would you consider another episode where you talk to our listeners about how you can take a broken life? I just feel like my life has been in a bunch of pieces, and through a journey, through my faith in my Lord, I was able to put things back together. And while I'm still on a journey of maybe putting pieces together, I'm a whole lot better now than what I was some time ago.
Well, yes, absolutely. I'm not sure if I call her my assistant, associate, intern, partner. friend, sister, she and I came up with this line, broken crayons still color. And we had a festival on Friday, and she's brilliant, and I'm honored that she works with me. But with that, we very much would love to do that. One of the symbols of our work is in Japan, when pottery breaks, they put it together with gold leaf. It's called kintsugi. And in kintsugi, the more broken lines of gold leaf, the more beautiful the pottery is considered. So when you're broken, remember that the more in Japan and kintsugi, the more broken lines, it's the more gold leaf. And when you think of gold leaf, that's where in gold leaf, that's where light comes through. That's where God shines through in those broken pieces, right? I wish I had a piece. I'll send you one of our cards that we use that talks about kintsugi, but I actually do that in session. With blended families, we'll do a kintsugi piece and show that in blended families where there's been divorce and brokenness, how we put things back together. But absolutely, I mean, that's the name of the game. Like, and you can't stop. You got to get up and you got to recognize that's it. And when something breaks, that's your call. It's not defeat. That's the honorable call of, okay, now there's our opportunity, and you're not alone. And I feel like the opposite of addiction is not abstinence. It's not sobriety.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and disc personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.